Good day, everyone. Today, we're going to tackle reflective practice using learner attainment data, which is all about how we move beyond just giving tests and start using the results to become truly effective and ethical teachers. So, why reflection is the cornerstone of teaching? Reflective practice isn't just an optional activity, it's the cornerstone of continuous professional growth. It ensures that we, as future educators, don't just mechanically deliver lessons, but we consciously analyze the impact of our teaching on every learner. Now, in the Philippine education system, especially with our focus on MELCS or most essential learning competencies, undifferentiated instruction, this kind of reflection requires evidence. And that evidence comes from the systematic use of learner attainment data, including both what we call test scores and other non-test information. So as future teachers, we must learn not just how to assess, but critically how to interpret the data, respond to the findings, and use it for our own professional learning. Now let's start with test scores. So whether they come from a formative quiz or a summative exam or a performance task with a scoring rubric, these are quantifiable indicators of performance. So they, they aren't just mere numbers, they are the data that speak about learning patterns, content mastery, and the effectiveness of our instruction. So what do this score actually reveal? Test scores give us crucial evidence in four key areas. First, we have here the mastery of learning competencies. So, test results shows precisely how well learners have achieved the MELCS or specific lessons objectives. So, the key takeaway of this is if a significant portion of your students struggles with a specific competency, like say analyzing text structures, that tells you immediately that your instructional methods, spacing, or the example you use for that topic need revision. And next we have here patterns of errors. So this is often the richest part. Wrong answers are gold mines for reflection. So are there consistent errors in basic computation. So that points to weak foundational skills, not necessarily a misunderstanding of the current lessons. And are there misconceptions in the science concept that reveals a conceptual gap that needs specific reteaching? And lastly, are errors concentrated in specific grammar rules? That means we need targeted reteaching on those rules, not just general English practice. And the third one is individual versus group performance. So the data help us quickly identify who needs what. First, high achievers need enrichment activities. Second, struggling students require remediation, peer tutoring, or modified tasks. And third, on-level learners need reinforcement and guided practice. And the fourth one is trends over time. So a single test is just a snapshot. Multiple scores shows a progression. So the improvement over quarters suggests your strategies are working. And declining performance signals motivational issues, external stressors, or ineffective scaffolding. And flat performance means you need to drastically change your approach. It's, it's time for deeper differentiation. And next, we have here using scores to refine instruction. So a reflective teacher uses this data to answer those big questions. Which part need reteaching and which strategies work? So to act on this, you must learn three key practices. First, the item analysis. This is where we got technical. Item analysis help you identify the most difficult items or the low passing rate, the distractors or the incorrect choices that most students select, and crucial insight. If 80% of students choose the same incorrect option, the distractor successfully targeted a common misconception. You now know exactly what you need to clarify in your next lesson. And second, grouping students for differentiation. So based on your analysis, you must flexibly group learners. So you needs remediation, give simplified task or heavy scaffolding. And on level, get reinforcement and guided practice, and advanced get extension task and higher order applications. And remember, this grouping must be flexible, not a permanent label. And the third one is reflecting on teaching strategies. So your effectiveness is on the line. Use the results to ask true tough questions about your delivery. So, were my examples too abstract or too simple? Or did I move so fast through the key concepts? Or was the activity truly aligned with the objectives? So, the key here is recognizing that test scores reflect not just the student's ability, but also the teacher's effectiveness. And lastly, we have here the ethical use of this score. So finally, the test scores must be handled responsibly. We must ensure there's no public shaming or comparison. Scores are private data. And scores are used only to improve instruction, not to label students. And lastly, grades maintain fairness, transparency, and accountability. So we must always see assessment as a tool for growth, never as a form of punishment.
Okay, now let's move on to the learner's non-test data and other information. While test scores offer essential quantitative data, they only tell part of the story. To truly understand a student's performance, behavior, and circumstances, educators must turn to qualitative insights provided by non-test information. These crucial points include observations, anecdotal records, attendance, participation, portfolio outputs, behavior logs, peer feedback, self-assessments, and emotional indicators. A truly reflective teacher understands the necessity of evaluating both test and non-test data to develop a comprehensive understanding of the whole child. Next, we'll go to nature and non-test data. Nature of non-test data. Non-test data encompasses virtually everything that cannot be measured by standardized tests, but which profoundly influences learning and teaching. The following seven categories illustrate the scope and power of this information. First, we have attendance records. We begin with the fundamental attendance records. Chronic absenteeism, for instance, often correlates with low academic performance. Beyond simple truancy, attendance patterns can reveal deeper issues such as health issues, family concerns, low motivation, and social difficulties. By tracking this data, reflective teachers can quickly identify and intervene with the risk learners. Second is the participation and engagement. A learner's involvement in class discussion, group tasks, or hands-on activities provide vital insights into their academic and social profile. Observing participation reveals confidence levels, interest in the subject, learning styles like visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, and lastly, the social interaction skills. Low participation may signal anxiety, shyness, or lack of understanding, indicating a need for adjusted teaching strategies. Third, we have behavioral observations. Behavioral observations include structured notes about students' conduct, cooperation, respect, and responsibility within the classroom environments. These observations allows teachers to address behavioral concerns proactively, design intervention for self-management, and collaborate effectively with guidance counselors. Fourth is portfolio outputs. Portfolio outputs are powerful tools for assessing authentic learning and providing evidence of growth. By collecting diverse samples of student work over time, Por- portfolios reveal the process of learning, depth of reflection, creativity, and problem-solving abilities, and the improvement of the child over time. These portfolios are especially important in reflective teaching as they highlight growth, not just final scores. Fifth is the anecdotal records. Anecdotal records are narrative accounts of specific student behavior or performance that give teachers rich context that test scores simply cannot convey. Example, a learner consistently performs poorly in traditional written tests but shows exceptional creativity and deep understanding in hands-on projects. These observations indicates a potential mismatch between traditional assessment and learners' true strength. Sixth is the self-assessment and peer assessment. Self-assessment and peer assessment shapes the responsibility for evaluation, revealing the learner's metacognitive skills, self-awareness, and readiness to take responsibility for learning. These assessments help teachers adjust lessons to enhance autonomy and foster a culture of reflective learning. Lastly, we have parent feedback. Parent feedback provides essential information about home routines, health, emotional state, and external challenges that may be affecting a student's classroom performance. This collaboration completes a non-test data profile, allowing the reflective teacher to support the whole child effectively. Next is the using non-data for reflective teaching. A reflective teacher doesn't just collect non-test data, they actively synthesize it to understand learners holistically and adjust teaching practices accordingly. First, we have understanding learning barriers. Crucially, non-test data uncovers barriers to learning that traditional tests simply cannot measure. This can include emotional struggles, learning disabilities, language difficulties, social anxiety, and lack of resources. Once a barrier is identified, the teacher is empowered to modify instruction or, just as important, refer to student-appropriate support services, such as counseling or special education. Next is tailoring instruction. The insight gleaned from non-test data directly guided teachers in personalizing learning. This will result in responsive teaching practices such as varied instructional strategies, flexible grouping, adjusted difficulty levels, and modified learning tasks. For example, learners who rarely participate in large group may benefit from pair work before being asked to speak to the whole class, gradually building their confidence and communication skills. Thirdly is monitoring affective and behavioral growth. Reflective practice acknowledges that both academic and social emotional growth matter equally. Teachers can use non-test data to track essential affective and behavioral indicators including confidence building, leadership skills, and social cooperation, and resilience and grit. These indicators profoundly influence the teacher's style, classroom management, and feedback strategies. Now let's move on to combining test and non-test data for deeper reflection. High quality reflective practice occurs when teachers intentionally combine and cross-reference both quantitative tests and qualitative data. This synthesis leads to a much richer and understanding of student performance. Example of combined reflection consider a student who score low in tests but performs exceptionally when in projects and is highly participative. Combined reflection may reveal that the students learn better through hands-on kinesthetic activities, needs alternative assessment methods to truly demonstrate understanding, and might suffer from test anxiety that mask their actual knowledge. Based on this insight, instructional adjustment could include implementing more performance-based assessment, teaching scaffolded test-taking strategies, and taking measures to reduce test pressure. Next, we have reflection as personal growth. The systematic use of learner data is cornerstone of professional growth for teachers at very career stage. By engaging this data reflection, teacher enhances their practice by developing strong analytical skills, deepening their understanding in the reverse learners, examining and mitigating, making objective evidence-based decision in the classroom. To conclude, reflective practice using learner attainment data, both test scores and non-test information, empowers pre-service teachers to become competent, ethical, and profoundly student-centered educators. Test scores provide the quantitative evidence for academic performance, while non-test data reveals the deeper emotional, behavioral, and contextual factors influencing learning.